Welcome back to Cascade Homestead. Today I want to show you how I put soil in my beds. First of all, I want to say I appreciate you coming back to learn from me. I've learned a lot from different people I've watched, and I just want to take the opportunity to teach some of the stuff that I've learned. So I want to talk about this bed here and how I put the soil in it and how I save money. For those of you who have watched YouTube videos about how to fill raised beds, a lot of them talk about how expensive it can get. It can get really expensive to do raised beds, especially if you buy high quality soil to fill your beds with. And when you have as many beds as I have, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 raised beds, that can get quite expensive. So I've tried to figure out ways to save money and yet still be able to fill my raised beds so that they have a really good quality soil in it. Now, for those of you who watched my intro and tour video, I showed you how there was still a small layer of soil in this bed here. So that soil I used was Expert Gardener topsoil. Expert Gardener topsoil. Now this soil, it comes from Walmart. Now you might be thinking, why would you buy cheap Walmart topsoil? Well, it's the only one that actually has ingredients on it. Most of the topsoils you buy don't actually include ingredients, which means you don't know what's in them. But this one actually has ingredients. It is actually compost, wood, forest wood products, and sandy loam, all of which are really good for your garden. So I use part topsoil from Walmart. Now these bags are $1.58 a bag. They are 0.75 cubic feet per bag. So I buy quite a few bags of these, and I've dispersed this soil, this topsoil, throughout my garden. That's what I do my bottom layer with. And then for the next layer, I use a combination of soils. So this one is a all-natural raised bed potting mix, organic. It has fertilizers added to it. Now I highly recommend, if you're going to be putting soil in your raised beds, to have at least part of your soil have fertilizers already in it. It's good to add fertilizers to it, but if you use the soil that's already amended with fertilizers, that is one step up on just using regular soil that doesn't have any fertilizers in it. So I use a soil that has fertilizer in it. And what I do is I just take this and I'll just dump that in here. And then once you start breaking it up, I'm going to just mix it a little bit with my topsoil. So you're going to mix it in with your topsoil. You're going to get it a little bit mixed in here. You want the more fertile soil to be closer to the top. So you don't want to mix it too much, but you mix it a little bit and you kind of spread it out here. And this bag here, get you a little closer look here. This raised bed potting mix, this is $7 a bag, and this is 2 cubic feet. So I wouldn't recommend using too many of those. They are a little bit higher priced, but they're a really good quality soil. You can see here, it's a real dark, rich soil. So it's really good for raised beds. That's what you want. You want a real dark, rich soil. The next step for my beds is I use steer manure. Now this bag here, this is a composted steer manure with other compost mixed with it. So you probably don't want to use just straight steer manure. If you can, find a manure that's been composted. That means it's been mixed with wood products and other things, and it's been taken months for it to break down. So this is steer manure. A lot of people on YouTube will use horse manure. I don't have access to that, so I use steer manure. But you just take a bag of the steer manure, and you take the steer manure and you dump it in there. Now this one, you're going to want to mix it up really good. You're not going to want it to just sit, because you don't want your plants growing in straight steer manure. It's not really good for them. So once you get it all broken up into small little pieces, or as fine as you can get it, then you're going to want to mix it. You're going to take your hands and you're going to want to mix it with your garden soil. And what this does is it gives your garden soil some really good compost and steer manure to give it the good life that it needs. So you mix this up really good all the way to the bottom. And what you want is you want it mixed evenly. You don't want it to be uneven with the mixture. Otherwise you'll have problems with certain plants getting too much food, other plants not getting enough. So you want it to be mixed up completely. So once you've got those three things mixed up, the next thing I'm going to do is this one. This is G&B Organics Raised Bed and Potting Mix Premium Outdoor Container Mix. Now, there's different kinds you can use. This is the first time I've used the G&B. The last time I used for all these beds here, I used a Pacific Northwest mix, which I got from Lowe's. And it was a really good mix, but I wanted to check out our local farm store, and they had this one, which is also locally made here in the Pacific Northwest. So I really like it. And this one, if you look here, it's got a lot of, it's really a light soil. So it's going to really hold the moisture really well. And it's got a lot of composted wood in it and other things like that. So this is a really good soil. So when you dump this into your bed, you're going to want to mix it into your dark soil really well, so that your dark soil will hold the moisture really well. So you just come in here and these are a 3 cubic foot block, so it's really packed in there really well. So you might think that that's kind of a small bag, but when you get it mixed in, it really does expand and work really well in a raised bed. So once you get all the pieces broken up and you get them all separated out, you're going to want to spread it out evenly, and then you're going to want to mix it with your dark soil. You don't want to leave the really lighter colored absorbent soil on top. You want to mix well so that when you're watering your garden during the hot months of summer, your moisture retention will happen in your entire bed and not just on the top. If you only have moisture retention on the top, then where your roots are deep, they won't hold the moisture very well. So you want to have the moisture retention all the way down. So you're going to want to come in here and mix this all up like this, so you got the really good combination of the dark soil and the good lighter bed soils that are going to hold the moisture really well. Now once you've got the soils all mixed up, there's one last thing that I add to my raised beds to kind of give it some really good moisture retention, and that is peat moss. Peat moss is exceptionally well at holding moisture, so you definitely want to use peat moss, especially if you live where I live. I live in the Western Oregon. We actually have a dry season, so from the month of about early June until early September, we don't get any rain. It doesn't rain here for the entire summer. We actually have a dry season where we're not allowed to do anything with fire because we have a lot of wildfires out here. So we need something out here that really holds a lot of moisture so that when we water our gardens, they don't dry out really quickly, since we get very little moisture in the air during the summer. Our humidity is usually very low. So I like to use peat moss. And I'm just going to dump the rest of this bag in here. Again, you want this to be really fine, so you don't want to have big clumps. You want to actually break the clumps up until it's really a fine mixture. And let me show you what the peat moss looks like. So this is the peat moss. It's a dark brown, really a holds moisture really well. So you definitely want peat moss or something similar to peat moss in your raised beds so that they don't dry out really quickly. Once you've gotten it broken up, then you want to start mixing it in with your soil. And you want to do a real deep mix. You want this peat moss to go all the way to the bottom. You don't want it to be stuck on the top. So you want to dig really deep, mix it all in there. And once I'm finished here, I'll give you guys a really good look at what this bed looks like with all the different soils mixed into it. And you might be thinking, how much did it cost to do all that? Well, for this bed, which is 3 feet by 3 feet, so it's 9 square feet, I figured it cost me about $20 to $25 to fill this bed with soil. It's 12 inches deep and 9 square feet. So that's not actually a lot. Now, for those of you who have good topsoil on your property, I don't have good topsoil here. I have really, really bad soil out here. This is an old riverbed. My property is on top of an old riverbed. So this is nothing but hard clay and big boulders. Terrible soil to grow in. I tried to grow in this soil once 3 years ago, and my plants got so stunted, I don't even think I got much of anything produce-wise in my whole garden planting in the ground. So that was the reason I decided to go with raised beds. But like I was saying before, if you have good or decent soil, you can always find a good spot, till up some soil, and add your own soil to your bed to save you money. I would do that, but unfortunately, I don't have any good soil to do that with. This is all just really bad soil. Well, let me show you what this bed looks like now. So this is the soil. Really good quality soil. Now this soil here, this will keep its nutrients and its water level really nicely. It's a really good quality soil. And there's one last thing that I do before I start putting my plants in this, and that is I add some of this. This is homegrown, organic, natural, crafted blend fertilizer. Now this is a 463 fertilizer. It's a 463. Now with 463, you're getting equal amounts of nitrogen, phosphorus, and all the other nutrients you need. And I don't really think you need much more than that. Everyone I watch says the same thing. And I apologize for the letters being backwards. I'm not sure why my video is doing that. I apologize. This is Dr. Earth homegrown, but it's a really good fertilizer, and it's all completely organic. So I hope this video gave you a good idea of how I do my soil in my beds, and it's a really good idea to do a combination of soils, not just the same thing. So you want to do compost, you want to do some composted manure, you want to do some topsoil, peat moss, all different kinds of soils, and mix them up really well, and you'll have a really good bed. And it shouldn't cost you a whole lot of money if you just keep your eye open. And this is a good time for soil too, because places like Home Depot and Lowe's are constantly doing sales on their bags for soil. So last week I was able to get 2 cubic foot bags that are normally $5 a bag for $2.50 a bag. And that's how I filled up a couple of these different beds. So I would recommend looking out for sales at your local farm stores and local home improvement stores. They got really good deals going on. I appreciate you being here with me while I showed you how I do my soil in my beds. God bless and have a good day.